All right, I'm running. We're running slightly behind. It's on me. I forgot that I need to do a proposal. It's finished, turned in, delivered. Reminder
Wedding
for
proposal.
wedding proposal for everybody: like, comment, subscribe, give us 5 stars on Spotify. I saw one person did that. I don't know who it was. Shout out to them, whoever did it. And anything else that you need to do, everything's down in the description below. Sounds like I didn't text you. You didn't text me, but it sounds like we were on the same page. We both have 4 teams prepared for today.
Yeah, we're at the point where it's like getting very hard to predict who is going to go where with some of these teams, like in the draft portion of it,
Yeah.
just because I don't know, like the first 10, it's kind of like, all right, you can pretty much knock some of that out with like 2 to 3 quarterbacks. And then it's like like a lot of the best players. Not to say that the rest of the draft doesn't have good players in it too, but it feels way more difficult to predict the middle back half of the draft than anything else.
For sure. This is the championship rounds. This is where I beat Andrew every single year when we do our mock draft competition. So I will be dialed
This is the
in for
fourth quarter.
yeah, it's the fourth quarter. Before we get into anything, in 2012, Penn State was hit with sanctions. I'm just kidding. The first team that we're going to be hitting today are the Indianapolis Colts. Funny enough, 2 of these teams we actually dropped videos on last week, the Colts and the Bengals. So we're not going to be ultra repetitive, but those, like the Colts video from last week about Anthony Richardson, will be in the description below. The Indianapolis Colts 8-9, fourth straight year of missing the playoffs. We can just glance over it real quick because we did just do a big episode on it, but I feel like we have to just mention real quick about the quarterback issues with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, they signed Daniel Jones to a 1-year, $14 million deal with 13.15 million guaranteed, $6 million signing bonus, $7.15 million base salary, max value of 17.7 million. Awful lot of money for a guy with multiple injuries and just might not be very good.
My quick question for you right off the rip: is this a move for Anthony Richardson to have a layup to win the job during camp, or was this a move to edge him out as being a starter? How do you perceive this Daniel Jones signing?
Well, if I'm internal and external, I guess, I'm hoping that this is the move that finally forces Anthony Richardson to get his shit together and take control of this offense. Um, I can't really imagine a scenario where a lot of people in that building would want Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback going into the 2025 season. So I'm looking at it as
I get that.
let's light a fire under Anthony Richardson's ass, bring in a guy that is relatively young, that has played a handful of football games in the NFL, that's been a starting quarterback, and let's hope that, like I said, he can get locked in.
So you do perceive it as a confidence building move for Daniel Jones, not a move to edge him out as a starter, it sounds like.
As a guy that does not think Daniel Jones is a good NFL quarterback, yes.
Okay. I respect that. I think so too. I talked to Andrew about it, and Andrew was like, no, he's going to be their starter next year, like pretty blindly. I just feel like Daniel Jones has had ups and downs as a starter, tons of injuries. I feel like this is a way to be like, go and win this job and roll in with some confidence into the season. But at this
Even
point,
though like
with Daniel Jones,
everything
with Anthony Richardson, like he's shaky. Like he's a shaky guy.
he is, but I'm countering my own thought process because we have talked about this. It seems like the Colts also just hate Anthony Richardson at this point.
Hate
So
him.
maybe they do want Daniel Jones to start. And if you get Daniel Jones to start, like I really don't think you're getting I don't really think you're getting anything better than Anthony Richardson by having Daniel Jones playing. Like he doesn't like he can run, but I think Anthony Richardson's a better runner. and he can't really throw. His neck's kind of messed up.
I don't know. What a bad situation for the Colts, regardless. Because if Daniel Jones wins the starting job, that's probably worst case scenario. And if that happens, that means that Anthony Richardson is still not progressing in any way, shape, or form, and that is also a big issue as well. We
Yeah.
obviously went over all of the quarterbacks like a week ago, so if you guys are Colts fans, take that video didn't do too well. Take the time, click the link in the description of us like breaking down why Chris Ballard even has a job with the Indianapolis Colts at this point, because they have had maybe the worst QB carousel of all time over the last like decade since Andrew Luck's retired.
Yeah, this is one of like the more interesting teams in my point of view because of how much I loved Anthony Richardson coming out. And I just feel like they don't get talked about a ton, and I really am curious to hear like what Colts fans think. Like, are you guys fed up because Anthony Richardson has a completion percentage of 32 in his
Fair.
career? Do you want to hang on because you see the throws that he makes like 75 yards down the field and it doesn't even look like he's trying, and he can literally run over anybody on defense? But then you also have the throws that are like wide open to AD Mitchell down the sidelines, like 20 yards away, and he throws at 35. Like, I get that part's frustrating, but like, what do Colts fans want? And I don't know a lot of Colts. I know one Colts fan, and I don't even really talk to him. So I don't know what the Colts fan base is like hoping for. I honestly feel like anytime Daniel Jones is brought into the building, you're kind of like, I hope the other guy wins.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's happy with that. I think that's a safe assumption to be had. Is like you can't be overly happy with Daniel Jones as a starter. The next thing that I have listed here is just Shane Steichen. Me and you have had multiple conversations where we just are at the point now where he just might not be like that great of a head coach. He might be great at being an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
This is a backfire to your argument of offensive gurus, but he did a good job in Philly, obviously, led them to a very dominant season where Jalen Hurts had his best performance as a passer in his entire career when they were a pass first offense more than a run first offense as they are now. And it seemed like he really got the best out of them. And since he's been in Indianapolis, he hasn't done awful, but there has been little things along the way that make you question where he's at as a head coach. Like one was throwing it to the third down running back who caught like one pass the entire season with the season on the line instead of like throwing it to Jonathan Taylor. I think that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And just like narrowly missing the playoffs each season. Where are you at with Steichen?
Yeah, I'm still kind of at that same spot too. I will say that I think he can like draw up a very good offense. Like besides that, I don't know what he was thinking in that one play a couple of years back when they missed the playoffs. Like maybe just trying to get too cute with it.
Yeah.
But from watching from watching what I've seen in Colts games, like there are guys that are getting open. I think Shane Steichen's issue with the offense is not being able to like develop a quarterback. And he has a year right now to prove us wrong. If Anthony Richardson can kind of come out here and look even remotely better than yeah, like that's all that I think Colts fans, and that's all that I would be looking for at this point, because we still know that Anthony Richardson hasn't played a ton of football beyond high school
at all,
right? Like
at all since high school.
Yeah,
like it's just he hasn't played much football.
So I think you have to have slower expectations, lowered expectations with a guy like that. And I think you got to have the ability to develop a quarterback and not just put together an offensive game plan, which I think he can. I just don't think he's done a great job of at developing Anthony Richardson up to this point. Because there was times where there's guys open left and right in that offense that we've seen, and Anthony Richardson's just blatantly missing them. And maybe a lot of it goes back on Anthony Richardson, but I still hold the coach accountable as far as developing a young, talented quarterback.
I completely agree with you. I think that's rough, but on a like from the quarterback perspective, but from an offensive skill player perspective, I think that they're at like a decent place with where they're at in the roster, like with who they have to get the ball to. They have
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, they have Josh Downs, and they have Michael Pittman Jr. I don't think that that's like a terrible core to have.
AD Mitchell too.
AD Mitchell, who is shaky, had a shaky rookie year, but I mean, nobody got him the ball. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe he can be decent or something like along those lines, but I don't think that this team is awful. And they have Quentin Nelson, obviously, who's a great offensive lineman. But if the consistent, the constant in this situation is like the quarterback play has been mid to even below average, and they are missing the playoffs by like 1 or 2 games. So like, is it fair for us to sit here and criticize like a Steichen or whoever, or is he doing like best with what's given to him?
I mean, we criticize Kevin Stefanski, and he's made it to playoff games and won playoff games with a similar quarterback situation, I would say.
Fair. Very fair.
I'm trying to think of some other quarterback situations that off the top of my head that just like haven't been great. That's the first one that comes to mind. Like, I think we give Mike McDaniel a pretty similar amount of criticism that he can draw up offensive plays, but can't take that next step and getting his team to the playoff. I think we're fair for the criticism for Shane Steichen for not being able to get it done, even with some of the shaky quarterback play that they've had.
Do you believe that he is under the gun? Do you think he's on the hot seat this season? Do you think that no matter how the quarterback position plays out, and do you think that if they win 8 or 9 games or whatever it may be, however the season might play out, do you think that he needs to make it to the playoffs to be able to save his job?
Is he going into year 4 with the Colts?
Year 3, I think. I believe.
Year 3. I don't think his seat is necessarily hot, but I think we might have. I think we've turned on the stove, and are kind of getting there. So I would say the stove is on, but not hot.
Okay. Some roster losses that the Colts did go under: lost their center Ryan Kelly, lost their guard Will Fries. On a positive note, they hired Lou Anarumo, who I think everybody thinks that his job in Cincinnati was very hard on him. I think that they didn't make it any easy or for him to do his job based on the talent that they were bringing in on a year-to-year basis through their draft prospects and then letting talent walk out of the door. Even thinking back though, when I was like thinking because I have like almost like that run that the Bengals went on in the playoffs when their defense really stepped up throughout the majority of the season. That was a middle of the road defense. And over the last few years, Lou Anarumo has.
We lost him.
Hello?
You cut out.
What
you cut out after over the last few years.
There's a massive storm going on right now. So if I lose power, I'm sorry. Over the last few years, he has put out low end defenses for the Cincinnati Bengals. So in his best season ever, it was middle of the road, and then it started to waver off more and more. I thought I liked Lou, but that worries me a little bit. And I don't know if I'm overthinking that or not, but I had like a weird remembrance in my brain where it was like Lou Anarumo is great, and they're screwing him over with the talent that they have on the defense. But even when they did have talent on that defense in Cincinnati, it was still middle of the pack D. So how do you feel about the hire of Lou Anarumo for the defensive coordinator spot?
I would lean towards a more positive feeling about it.
Okay.
I think I sit similar with you as far as like he didn't really have a ton to work with post Super Bowl run. But I think it's fair to sit here and wonder, like, how great of a defensive coordinator is this guy? Like, if you're that great of a defensive coordinator, you wouldn't be putting out some of the worst defenses in the NFL these last few years, regardless of how bad the talent is on your team. But truly, there could just be a point where you have absolutely nothing on the defensive side of the ball, and you're just like fighting with scraps at that point. So I still lean towards him being a good DC, but I think this is probably a relatively big year as far as like my opinion on him, as far as how good is he.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, if you're that good of a defensive coordinator and you're one of the top guys in the NFL, and post Super Bowl run, you have not done a great job of coaching a defense, that begins to raise some red flags, in my opinion.
Definitely. Colts were active in free agency, to say the least. Obviously, we just talked about it. They signed Daniel Jones, Tre'Davious Ward, who I think is a very good player from the 49ers. Cam Bynum, the safety. Corey Baltimore, the corner, never heard of him before. Neville Gallimore, the D tackle, never heard of him either. And then Khalil Herbert, the running back, who everybody seems to really love the idea of Khalil Herbert. And I have never seen it materialize like on paper. But as a complimentary piece to Jonathan Taylor, I don't hate it. But every complimentary piece that they have brought in for Jonathan Taylor in the Jonathan Taylor era has gotten hurt and sucked. So it's like, can they get lucky and just get a decent play out of Khalil Herbert? Because I remember when they traded for Naheem Hines and he like immediately tore his ACL.
And then he got traded to the Bills or picked up by the Bills, and he returned like 2 kickoffs for touchdowns and then got hurt again.
You're thinking of backwards.
Oh, he went from the Bills to the Colts.
Yes.
Okay.
You're thinking of it backwards.
Yes. Okay.
Do you like any of the moves that they made in free agency?
I like the Tre'Davious Ward one. I think he's a very good player. You named a whole bunch of guys that were probably just going to end up being like depth pieces aside from Cam Bynum. Other than that, I don't really know if any of these other guys are starters or not.
Yeah, me either.
So I can't really give you that well of an insight. Like the Khalil Herbert is a good compliment on paper, but like you said already, it feels like everybody likes it way more than it actually is.
We think, but I like that they are somewhat aggressive and doing their thing, obviously, and because I think that team at some point in time, like, I don't know if I love every move that they make in the front office, but they are consistent, and it seems like they at least try to put players on the field for this team, even though I don't always love it.
Right. I agree with you.
Now the draft. The Indianapolis Colts sit at 14. There are a ton of good players on the board, allegedly. We don't really know. It's probably a 50-50 hit at this point.
Yeah.
Something that always kind of runs into my head is Chris Ballard's kind of obsessed with these like athletic freaks, like Leate Latu, A.D. Mitchell, Anthony Richardson, all these guys who are big, strong, fast. And I feel like his head works in that way. So I'm going to go first to the guy who I think that they're going to take in the draft. Might be a little bit of out of left field, but I think that they take the safety from South Carolina, Nick Amanu-Wari, 6'3", 225, 32.5 arm length, 9-inch hands. He ran a 4.3 40-yard. He's got a 43-inch vert, and he had a 11'6" broad jump. He had one of the best combines, like on paper, that to come across the combine. And I think that Chris Ballard falls in love with these athletic freaks. I think that on the defensive side of the ball is a spot where they need enhancements. I don't think the Leatu pick was a hit at all. So I also could see them going edge if needed. But I think that they probably are going to stay on the defensive side of the football, unless if you think otherwise.
I think you made a good point about like the defensive freak type player. Well, just freak type athlete in general. I will say that I think this is earlier than expected, but based off of that, James Pierce fits that mold extremely well as like for the freak athlete type player.
Yeah.
6'5", 245, 4'47", 40, 156, 10-yard split. Broad jump was 10'3".
I love it.
And he was pretty productive in college, and that was a guy that was a top 5 pick coming into this last season.
Yeah.
So
I
could
like
be early. There probably will be better edge players on the board, but sticking on trend with the athletic freak show that Chris Ballard prefers, I think he also fits that mold.
I love that. I think that I love that idea, because then that means that Michael Williams will keep falling down the board and potentially falling into a team where I would like to see him more fit, because to be honest with you, I hate the Colts. I don't know why.
They're so weird.
It's a team that I just don't like. I don't like watching them. They're pretty annoying, and I'm tired. I think it's fantasy. I think fantasy plays a role into this. Like when you have one of their receivers, like if you drafted Michael Pittman Jr. last year, you were upset. If you had Josh Downs, you were upset one week and really happy the next.
Anytime that Flacco was playing.
Yeah, such up and downs with this team. It's so hard to like them. And I think that until they figure out whatever is going on at this quarterback position for them, I don't think it matters what they do in the draft. I don't think it matters how well these good young players play for them at running back and wide receiver. I think that they are in the purgatory mindset of barely missing the playoffs every single year, because I just don't think that they have that quarterback talent to get them over the hump.
Yeah, they have a lot of work to do with Anthony Richardson, and if he doesn't come out and take even a baby step in the right direction, they're looking at Daniel Jones being the starting quarterback, and that's never really a spot you want to be.
It's grim. That's how
it is grim.
Do you have anything else you want to add about the Indianapolis Colts?
I will say one thing nice about them, and they do have that guy that makes the song every week.
This is our Colts.
Yes.
This is our team.
We bleed blue.
I mean, shout out that guy. So
yeah, he turned up last year.
100%. He was the bright spot of the Indianapolis Colts season. All right.
He really was.
White clouds blowing out when we